Welcome to What? That Old Queen? A candid and adult take on queer life quandaries at a certain age. So please listen at your own discretion. Presented by Bernie and Tommy, the views here are purely those of the content providers and in no way reflect those of any service you may hear this program on. Now, please let your ears be upstanding for the Old Queens. Hi, Tommy.
Hi.
How you doing?
I'm in my flat with my new best friend.
Oh yeah, who's your new best friend?
Well, I'm calling him Danny, partly related to our new feature, What That Really Old Queen.
Right.
But he's a fly, and he's decided to join me in my social isolation.
A fruit fly?
Yeah, he's a fruit fly.
So in stark contrast to wanting to get rid of the pest, it's now your friend.
I know. I'm like, bring it on. Who else wants to come in?
What kind of scintillating conversations have you had with Danny the Fly?
Well, I haven't actually learnt fly language yet, but I'm planning on doing it tomorrow. It's on my list of things to do. But there's a lot of buzzing and buzzing.
I think there's an Udemy course for it, isn't there?
Probably.
Yeah. We're all doing Udemy courses.
I don't even know what that is, but I can imagine.
Okay.
Before this all started, I ordered a BSL course, and I didn't manage to do it, but my time has run out. But maybe they would refresh it for me.
Yeah. What's a BSL course?
British Sign Language.
Oh, yeah. That would be a great thing to learn.
Yeah, because you could do it from a distance, and people would still understand you.
Yeah. You could sign our podcast.
I mean, just give me a couple of days.
Okay. Have you seen so on the like Downing Street briefings on BBC News, they have people doing the signing, and what I love about signers is the facial expressions that they pull while they're signing. Just to, obviously is there to convey meaning.
They're so it's so expressive. I haven't been watching much of those podcasts on TV, but I did watch the one big announcement.
Yeah,
on my new TV that you dropped down before the lockdown.
Dropped down before lockdown. Did you drop anything else down before lockdown?
Well, that would be telling.
It would be telling. So what have we got coming up in today's show? Got What That Really Old Queen. Who's our What That Really Old Queen this week?
So this week it's Danny LaRue, Danny the Street.
Oh, I love Danny LaRue.
So I've watched a documentary on Danny, and I've got his autobiography, and hopefully we're going to have a phone-in caller from a friend of mine, who used to make Danny sandwiches. If the technology works.
I definitely want to know what Danny's favourite filling was.
I think we all do. I think it's the question on everybody's lips.
What was on Danny's lips?
Mayonnaise.
Maybe. Something creamy. Lipstick, usually. So we've also got some more solo kink stuff in Kinky Blinks. As we've got a guest, I haven't really done anything for Shnack Out of It this week, but maybe we'll do a big one next week. And I've got questions in Queens of Agony.
I can tell you about my sourdough adventure.
Okay.
I just said I can tell you about my sourdough adventure.
Sourdough adventure. Okay. Yeah, I'll be up for that.
Yeah.
We'll do that after the break. So should we talk about Danny LaRue? He's actually one of my favourites. I think when I was a kid, he was the first person, or it was my first kind of experience of drag, even though he didn't like to be called a drag artist. He was a female impersonator. But I was so young at the time, I didn't really understand. I thought he was brother and sister with himself. But then when I found out what he did, I used to like dressing up in ladies' clothes and things like that. So in my primary school, on Friday afternoons, there was a dressing up box with a sequin dress. And every Friday afternoon, I would put the sequin dress on. And if anybody else had it on, I'd be like, get my dress off. That's mine. And I think it was all down to Danny LaRue.
You look beautiful in it.
I know. I think I need one now. I might go on eBay later, see if I can get a sequins dress.
I've actually been looking at ball gowns on eBay.
Have you?
Just for when we can all go back to a party again, because I just want to be totally fabulous.
Yeah, I think we're all going to be totally fabulous. I mean, after this lockdown, I never want to stay in ever again.
Exactly, yeah. Someone put on Facebook the other day, oh my God, I've woken up with symptoms of being fabulous.
I mean, I'm never staying in ever again. In fact, I'm probably going to sell my house and live in a party constantly, from one party to the next. Yeah. Anyway, we digress.
Yeah.
Let's get on to Danny.
Yeah. So Danny LaRue was born in Ireland. Don't know the date. As I say, I'm never knowingly well researched, but quickly moved to Soho from a very young age. And what I really like about imagining a young Danny is like thinking of him looking out of his bedroom window and seeing all the West End theatres, and then imagining, oh, one day I might star in one of those, be in one of those theatres. And that's exactly what happened. Sort of during the war, when war broke out, he moved to Exeter and became a window dresser, and then joined the Navy, and came back after the war, got involved in the sort of London nightclub scene. The kind of all of the stars, really, I suppose, were involved in some of Danny's shows, like Barbara Windsor and little Ronnie Corbett and people like that. And you've got to bear in mind when you think about Danny LaRue at this time, it was still illegal to be gay in this country. So his life was he was very guarded about his private life. His partner was his manager. He would sort of allude to the fact that he was having affairs with, some of the women in the chorus line, that kind of thing. And he made a distinctive effort always to come out at the end of a show as a man, so that it was always, like you were saying, he was always a female impersonator, if you like. And everyone who was anyone used to come to those shows. Like, he was a really good friend of Princess Margaret, who I'm a massive fan of. There's this story about, Princess Margaret, obviously we all know, used to drink a hell of a lot. And he said to her at this party, I think you need to stop drinking. And she slapped him around the face. And then he left this party. But she famously never apologized to anyone, but she came back to his nightclub a couple of weeks later and she said, hello, Danny, am I forgiven? Which I quite like that story.
Wasn't it that he went back in after being thrown out and slapped her around the face and said, never speak to me like that ever again?
That was it, yeah. Yeah, you're right.
And then they didn't speak for weeks, and then she apologized to him and said, am I forgiven?
Well, she was obviously thinking, I can't bear not to be able to go to that club anymore. So she had to make amends.
Well, it was the place to be, wasn't it?
Yeah. But then sort of TV came a calling, and that's probably how a lot of us over 40s remember him, really, from being, a kind of mainstay of like British TV, most quite sort of respectable and kind of like very much euphemisms and nothing too filthy. Yeah. Really popular with sort of older women, really, and so it was never lewd, but it alluded to it.
Yeah. Well, it was all innuendos, wasn't it? Which was kind of the comedy of that era.
Exactly, yeah. And then sort of probably at around the age of 50, he decides to retire and put his money all into property. And bought this massive hall, Walton Hall, I think somewhere up north. And he was about to pull out, and then he got two Canadian investors who turned out to be con men. And he lost all of his money, had nothing, and so he decided to go back onto the stage. And this is sort of the second part of his life, really, in his career, where he was just doing the rounds, really, going to all sorts of really quite small venues and just touring the shows and just carrying on as normal, really, and travelled with like his one sort of assistant who did all the costumes but also drove the van.
And didn't she end up looking after him after he had a stroke?
Yeah, and a bit of a carer for her. Maybe Matthew knows a bit more about. Do you want to join in?
Yeah, so we've got.
I don't know much about the later bit of his life, but I almost went and saw him in because he moved out to Spain, didn't he, and had his club in Spain.
Oh,
was it in Benidorm? But yeah, I knew Danny sort of like in sort of the mid-90s. Okay. So I didn't really know him, but I made his sandwiches.
So welcome to the show, Matthew Oldham. He's just kind of popped up. Did you used to make Danny LaRue's sandwiches?
Yeah. I'm from Southampton, and I was the chef at the Solent Suite in Southampton Guildhall. And every Monday, first Monday of the month, we put on a free show for like all the old folk and that in Southampton. And as part of it, you'd have the dressing room for changing everything. I would be honoured to get making him his sandwiches to really meet him a couple of times. But he used to live down the road from me, so we used to use the same cake shop. So I used to see him in the cake shop quite a bit as well.
I know Matthew from doing some of my queer nights in Bristol, Beacons, Icons and Dicons, and Matthew's been my DJ, which your DJ name is Let's Have a Knees Up Motherfucker, isn't it?
Knees up Motherfucker.
Great.
So I was just completely sold on the good old days when I was a kid. That was like catnip to me. That was just so working, like being able to make Danny his sandwiches was just like amazing.
What was Danny's favourite filling?
Well, he just had a basically broad range of low-end sandwiches. So, the egg, the cheese, the salad. The funny thing is, we used to get all the bands in. So we had an Oasis in the next week, as the time I was there. And like Oasis had the, like the cheese and pickle with that, and Blur had hummus. And it was like virtually unheard. Like this was mid-90s Southampton. It was just unheard of. But yeah, just pop up all around Southampton. Like the first nightclub I could ever get into, I was 18. All the nightclubs in Southampton was horrible. So we used to go to the gay club, the Magnum. First time I got in, downstairs was Danny LaRue and Christopher Biggins having a pint at the bar. Well, having champagne at the bar.
Amazing.
So I just naturally thought that all nightclubs should be like this, sort of from a very early age. So like he used to own a big pub in Southampton, the Cowards, at one point, which is like a massive football pub where Southampton fans would go and watch football and stuff. And big fights and stuff like that, and it was just this pub. He had like a real rough pub on the common. He spanned both worlds of Southampton. He was just a normal, what I mean, just hung around in Southampton.
I bet.
It's weird.
You mentioned the good old days. I mean, I think that was one of the first times I must have seen Danny was on the good old days on TV. First time round, they recently repeated those, and they have They have the ugliest audience. Like literally, no one has any makeup on. I mean, everyone looked really scary in the 70s.
Much more glittering than what it is, and I just imagine it was all like fantastic period costumes. When you look in, they've all made their own costumes, haven't they? Pretty
much, yeah. I mean, and it's scary that no one looks. I mean, no one had any kind of like personal preening or whatever. Like everyone is hairy and no makeup.
Poor old Roy Huds, he died out last week, didn't he? So good.
Yeah, he was massively influential about all of those beautiful old sort of musical stars, really.
Yeah, and Danny, there's a story about Roy Hudd, isn't there, where Roy Hudd was on his uppers, and Danny LaRue kind of was massive back then. I mean, it's a real riches to rags story, Danny LaRue, because she was like the biggest thing ever. Roy Hudd was on his uppers and actually brought him on tour with her and like gave him the same billing. Yeah, it was so very apparently he was very generous as well, to a fault.
Like I say, he done a free show every month for the old people in Southampton. Like the head chef used to come along and bring his 10-year-old. Everyone was welcome. It was just fantastic. It come out, fully dressed up, and then, like you say, at the end, come back on immaculately dressed up in his suit and tucker and all that, and then just finish up. It was just an amazing thing to do, and it's a big old place, the Southampton Guildhall. I bet. So it was just free. It was really good.
So, Matthew, you're an artist in your own right, aren't you?
Oh yeah.
You haven't just been signing out on the Danny LaRue stories for your entire.
No.
I tend to though.
So tell us a little bit about what you do. You've got a project called Radio Silence, I hear.
Oh yeah. So I'm a musician, but I make computer programs that make music. So it's all sort of generative. People have been trying for 2,000 years, and best they can come up with is One Direction. So let the machines have a go. So one of the projects I've got on there at the moment is it listens to Radio 4 Live, and it just takes out the silences. So it's sort of like a gate. So if the volume drops below a certain level, it records that off, and it sticks all those together and just plays them as a big long track. So sort of like it's got about a minute. So what you do, what's it on? It's on Jungulator TV. It's called Radio 4 Silence. Radio Silence 4, around that way. Okay. Yeah, it just plays the silences off of Radio 4 continually. So you just get this lovely... Archers is really good. Archers is brilliant. Brilliant sound. When they're in the milking shed, you just get the cows in the background. It's really good.
What I want to know is there more radio silence now in this current situation? Because I feel like the broadcasting is just becoming a little bit more DIY, because obviously there's probably less people in the studio and stuff. And so there feels like everyone's a bit like, what's going on next? And they're also like trying to broadcast to people that are at home on, socially isolating on the phone. Do you think is your work in response to that in any way?
I wouldn't say it's in the response to that, but it's an interesting idea, and I can actually check. I'll do a filter from now on to check how much silence it records off. But it originally came from this artist that I met years ago called Matt Relatsky. He gave me my big first break. He gave me a gig in Cambridge and stuff, and he made this fantastic piece because there's actual piece of equipment for radio. It's used for live talk, and it works in the same way. What it does is if someone talks like this, it cuts out the silences and moves the words closer together, so you can have more time for adverts, sort of thing. Because so it's actually like a product that's already out there.
I think we might need that for this podcast.
Yeah.
Come again,
I could do with that filter myself because I feel like it's clicking really slowly.
Well, again, I could do with the silence one.
You have both options.
Yeah. I've been making one recently. I showed it to David Hopkinson, the artist from the Cube, the other day, and he suggested that maybe I should do it with films. So I've started taking. It's really good with Shakespearean acting. It just takes out the words, and you can see the acting in their faces. I tried Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf the other day, and it worked really good. Yeah, Liz is great in it. When you take out Liz Taylor's words, the facial expressions that she just comes up with in the film, it completely unlocks another dimension of the film.
I totally want to see that.
Oh, I've got a copy up on my website. Check out matthewalden.co.uk and look under generative, and they're called Reglatsky videos. They're up on that. Okay,
well, we'll put a link in the description of this podcast to that as well, so our listeners can have a listen in. But thank you, Matthew, for joining us for this.
No worries, pleasure.
And it's really nice, because with the feature, That Really Old Queen, I've gone for, the past two, I've gone for really historical figures. And this time I've gone a bit present day in living memory. And it's so nice to actually have someone that was there and actually made the sandwiches.
Yeah.
Like I say, he was a lovely bloke. He was just very, very friendly to everyone. He was a solid gold bloke, you know what I mean? And like everyone knew him. In fact, my last story about him as I leave you, when he died, as a mark of respect, Southampton City Council wanted to rename the avenue Danny LaRue Boulevard. Danny the Street. No one saw it. Like they did it in the end, but it was mooted, and I would have voted for that.
I would have voted for that as well. I want to live on that street. Okay, well, I'm gonna play out Danny LaRue singing the Marrow song as a little tribute to Danny. So, but thanks for joining us, Matthew. So here's Danny LaRue and the Marrow song.
Down the road there lives a man I'd like you all to know. He grew a great big marrow for the local flower show. When the news got round of it, they came from far and wide. But when they saw the size of it, everybody cried. Oh, what a beauty. I've never seen one as big as that before. Oh, what a beauty. It must be 2 foot long or maybe more. It's such a lovely color, nice and round and fat. I've never seen a marrow quite as big as that. Oh, what a beauty. I've never seen one as big as that before. Now he was leaning on his garden gate the other day, beckoned to a lady who lived across the way. He took her down the garden path, showed it her with pride. When she saw the size of it, everybody cried. Oh, what a beauty. I've never seen one as big as that before. Oh, what a beauty. It must be 2 foot long or maybe more. It's such a lovely color, nice and round and fat. Never seen a marrow quite as big as that. Oh, what a beauty. I've never seen one big as that before. Get on the marrow. Never seen one as big as that before.
So there you go. That was Danny LaRue and the Marrow song. What I love about that song is that it's just got so much innuendo in it, which was really his kind of sense of humor, wasn't it?
Really, yeah, big innuendo.
Okay. Well, let's move on. I want to talk about a thing which I found in Pink News. Now, I know we're all self-isolating, so this doesn't affect us at the moment, but presumably at some point we will go back to interacting with each other. And I found this...
Fingers crossed.
I mean, I bloody well hope so. So I found this article because I've been trolling kind of social media and things like that. And I found an anonymous man described his unconventional sex life in The Guardian's weekly column, My Life in Sex. And basically, he says, as a gay man, he prefers to have sex with straight men because they don't want romance. There's no risk of romance or commitment. There have always been men who have sex with other men but don't consider themselves gay or even bisexual. I should know, I've been sleeping with them since my school days. I prefer sex with straight men because they don't want romance. With gay men, there's always a possibility that they could get the wrong end of the stick and want something more. He explained that he was in an open marriage with another man and so was not interested in falling in love, but added that by using dating apps and the internet, the discreet anonymous encounters were incredibly easy. He said there's little or nothing in the way of guilt. I've even encountered straight men who have male-on-male playmates with their wives' blessing. I was initially skeptical, but this arrangement seems to work out for everyone. The wife knows she has no competition from another woman. The husband knows he does not want a life with another man. It's the definition of no strings attached. And he said he's met straight men who wanted to have threesomes with him and his husband, and added that although he preferred one-on-one hookups, watching his husband spend a couple of hours with another man can be huge fun. He said the arrangement works for him and his husband. There have been difficult experiences where the straight men turned out to be not so straight, so presumably they want a little bit more than just a bit of a roll in the hay. But I mean, what do you think about that?
Well, it strikes a chord with me, really, because I do know a lot of straight men and have had relationships with them in different ways over the years. Actually, this lockdown period has brought in like different feelings, I think, for them, because I got like a lovely sort of email from this guy that I've been seeing who's straight, and I've been seeing him for many years, and it's full of conflicted emotions.
Right. I mean, when they're saying they're straight, I think everybody is on a bit of a spectrum, aren't they, in terms of straight and bisexuality. So I guess you are labelled how you want to define yourself, but it's not technically straight, is it?
No, but he or people like him might say that he has been attracted to the person rather than the gender.
Right. Okay. And so you've actively had kind of relationships with straight men. Well, you know, encounters.
Yeah, but sort of probably more than encounters, but it's definitely rooted in a physical outlet, shall we say?
Yeah.
And it seems like it just feels very confusing in that way at the moment for me with this particular guy, actually,
right?
Because I don't know how I don't know. I think that this situation that we're in has polarized different aspects. It's stressful. Like to read this email that's been so thought through.
I think the thing is that this whole situation which is going on at the moment is making us all think about our lives and what life's going to be like after this. Because I think it will change forever. How we see life and how we live life. And I think maybe people are thinking about maybe things which they've been too scared to do, or if they've been too scared to come out, or if they've been too scared to tell someone how they feel about them. And because it feels like a little bit of an end of the world scenario, all of those feelings are welling up inside us, and we're all thinking about those things and how we feel about people and whether we should tell them about that.
I guess that's what's happening, really, because I've just been breezily carrying on with this sort of pseudo weird relationship for 15 years and been quite happy with that. But then maybe this person like is in lockdown and is like having a bit of a crisis within their relationship. Yeah,
possibly because a lot of that stuff is repressed, and if you don't have an outlet for it, then you know you're going to think about it even more, aren't you? Yeah, it's interesting. I think all of this is going to make us reflect and look at our lives and make us think that if we get through this, how do we want the world to be, and how do we want our lives to be, and who do we want to be with?
Yeah.
Anyway, with that in mind, before we go to the break, I've got a couple of inspiring phrases. This one's from Martin Luther King Jr. The ultimate measure of a man is not where he stands in moments of comfort and convenience, but where he stands at times of challenge and controversy, which I think we can all think about as we're going through this. And this one's by Stephen Covey, and it's, I'm not a product of my circumstances, I'm a product of my decisions. Okay, well, with that in mind, think on that and look sharp, Tommy. We'll have a break.
I will, yeah.
So we'll be back after this. So we're back, and Shnack Out of It, you've got a little recipe to share, which you had for your lunch today, didn't you, Tommy?
Yeah, so I, like literally an hour before total lockdown came, my friends dropped around the mother of, the sourdough, I don't know what you call it, culture, in a jar, and you feed this sourdough, and then a couple of days later you can make a sourdough loaf. So each day you either discard half or put that half into making a loaf of bread. So it's literally like sourdough, like the sourdough mother, bread and water. It was quite a messy and tricky process, but I did manage to make a loaf this morning, and then I had baked beans on toast and with the cheese topping, and it was a flatbread. Like, it didn't rise to how I would have liked it to have done, but it wasn't wet, or like it was nice.
So how do you make it? What do you put in it?
So literally you just put salt, flour, and like half a jam jar of the mother sourdough.
Okay. And do you add any kind of baking powder to that?
No, you don't use any baking powder or yeast or anything.
Oh, wow.
Because I presume that the mother has originally come from some fermented source, be it yeast or I don't know what.
Yeah. So that's going to enable it to rise.
But now that I've got that mother,
now
that I've got that mother, that will continue to grow and grow, and all I need to make sure is that I've got enough flour to make bread every couple of days.
Oh, amazing! And how are the shops? Have they got flour?
My local shop has got flour. Yeah, that's where I've got it, but the supermarkets don't tend to have it.
No, I think that's the thing. The local shops seem to have more produce left over than the actual supermarkets at the moment. Although I think I spoke to a small shop owner the other day, and he was saying that the actual wholesalers are running out of stuff. So hopefully those kind of supply lines will start running again, and we can get the food to everyone in the shops. What else have you been doing?
I think that you just need to be canny about where you go. You just need to be canny about where you go, so that like some supermarkets right in the centre of town, they seem to be actually quite empty, but the bigger supermarkets seem to like have less.
Yeah, but the smaller kind of local shops seem to have enough.
Yeah.
What else have you been doing? How have you been keeping fit?
So I have been out for my daily exercise. I've been out running or cycling, or I have done, last night I did an online yoga class with my friend Emma, and she does a queer yoga class, and she's doing that via Zoom every Thursday night.
Oh, that's good.
That's quite nice.
Yeah, I've started doing yoga. There's lots of kind of online resources for yoga. There's one called Man Flow Yoga, where the guys are ridiculously hot and slightly distracting. But if you can't do all the stretches, they're quite nice to look at while you're waiting to move on to the next one.
And is that a free thing?
There's some free videos on YouTube, and I think they've also put a free area on their website, which I'll also put a link in the description of the podcast. But you can also pay for it if you want to. But I think a lot of these places where you can do it remotely and do it at home are kind of, cashing in a little bit on people having to stay at home and wanting to be healthy still and fit. And I think it's important to get those exercises in with the absence of the gym.
Yeah. But I wonder if more people do more exercise, because that's the only thing that we are allowed to do.
Well, yeah, I'm kind of treating this little period as almost like a health retreat. So, get healthy, get fit while I can. Maybe not drink so much, but that's not going so well tonight during the recording.
Yeah, I'm doing less well at that. We had another case of wine delivered today.
Lovely. Okay, I need to get on that. So my wine kind of bank doesn't deplete too much. So can I go back for Kinky Blink? And we're going to go back to the article that we started last episode about having some solo fun. How have you been? This is our other favourite pastime as gay men. the sex side. How have you been coping with that?
I find it quite hard, because I do enjoy that side of life. But I have been finding outlets for it, telephone sex being, the only option, really. But that's been enjoyable. There was a fella that I used to know years ago who was very good at telephone sex. And so we lost contact probably about 3 years ago. I can't remember really. But with this lockdown, I decided to send him a message to see how he was. And the floodgates have opened.
Great. Yeah, I've kind of had message sex and maybe a few videos being exchanged and things like that. So that's kind of keeping me going. But also this solo fun. So the next kind of couple of headlines for Kinky Blink is improvisation. So once you've developed a taste for creative masturbation, you might want to start incorporating items from around your home into your play. One idea that just needs string and clothes pegs is the clothesline game, which I presume is that you kind of try on different clothes. I don't know. And another is to fetch some ice cubes and tease your sensitive places with ice cubes. Or if you have a sturdy pole.
That's an interesting idea.
Yeah. I mean, that might mix it up a little bit. Or if you have a sturdy pole, like a mop or a broom handle, you can try the straddle game. This offers an opportunity for more meditative experience rather than just chasing a climax. Just let yourself balance on the pole and close your eyes and become aware of your breathing and feel the sensations across your body, your weight pressing into the pole, balancing and savouring and developing erotic sensation.
Where is the pole? Is it up your bum?
Well, I think if you're straddling it, it's kind of in your erogenous area, isn't it? It's in the kind of genital, anal area.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But can I interrupt you and say, wouldn't it be horrific to have, I don't know, some kind of incident where a pole goes too far up and you're being rushed to casualty in this climate?
Yeah.
Where the NHS is being stretched already, and then you come in with a broom handle up your bum.
I don't think putting a broom handle up your bum is what they're suggesting. I think it's more about, it's not the end. I think it's like the actual pole bit. So it's not going in you. It's just kind of rubbing against you.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I wouldn't advise putting a broom handle up your bottom.
Performance artists have been doing that for years, sticking broom handles up their bum.
And many other things, like cheese sandwiches and stuff. Anyway, role play. You probably already have favourite erotic fantasies you like to imagine when you play. But if one of these scenarios was really to happen, what would you wear for it? What could you do to improvise from your current wardrobe? Would it be a school uniform, a shirt, a tie, skirt or trousers, perhaps something a maid might wear, or bedtime attire, pajamas or a nightgown, or maybe it's by the pool and you'll be in your swimwear, or in the changing room in your gym, or at a ballet class in a leotard. Or perhaps you might imagine an encounter with your lover, so you dress seductively in an evening dress or evening suit with your most provocative underwear underneath. Or maybe you prefer the garments of a slave or a simple sheet folded, wrapped and tied around your waist. I guess it could be kind of Greek, like a toga party.
I've done that.
Yeah. So, you could get a little bit creative, like with your elaborate wank and dress up for it.
Yeah, I had a whole performance that I did for the National Trust that was like illuminating this beautiful mural that was in one of the National Trust houses. And the kind of main narrative on the wall was the Achilles story, where Achilles dresses up as a woman and goes into hiding in the island of Skyros so that he can avoid the Trojan War. And then he comes, and then people try and find him because the war is kicking off. And then I got this beautiful boy to dress up as Achilles, and I became Patroclus, who was Achilles' rumored to be gay lover or a gay lover.
Yeah.
And so I've already got the costumes in. Basically, that's what I'm saying.
Amazing. Well, I'm sure we've got lots of stuff we can dress up as, you know.
I have.
Yeah.
It's endless.
You know, and if you're into a little bit of kink and you've got, you know, like a harness or something or some jocks you can wear, you know, why not do it for your own pleasure and not just for other people's? But of course, if you're having kind of video sex or, you know, sending video messages, you could dress up for that as well.
How are you finding sort of, you know, being groomed and, you know, haircut, shaving, trimming, or, you know, whatever you like to do to make yourself feel like Bernie? How are you finding that in this situation where you don't necessarily have to see so many people?
Well, I'm still doing it for me. I always do it for me. I don't necessarily do it for other people. So I'm still keeping myself together. Luckily I had a haircut before we had lockdown, so I should be all right for a few weeks. But I might look like a Neanderthal by the end of this. But yeah, I've got clippers, so I can kind of groom my beard if necessary. How about you?
Well, with my hair, I just, you know, I've grown it long and I just tie it back, so that can just continue, really. I've set up a group on Facebook, which is a morning assembly. People check in with each other in the mornings, and someone leads the group into a kind of group exercise. It could be like a dance or a singing thing, or watch someone do a performance. It could be anything, really. And the whole purpose of that really is that everyone is together at 9 o'clock, washed and dressed and ready to go. And I just find that really useful, because otherwise I probably would stay in my pajamas. Yeah. Clean my teeth. So I have been doing that. I've not been shaving as often as I do, but I think that's okay.
Yeah. Well, I don't mind that. I'm never clean shaven. So, but maybe I'll start to be clean shaven for this period. Anyway, shall we do some Queens of Agony?
Yes, please.
Oh, before we do, I'm just going to go back to Queens of Corona for a bit, and I enjoyed a tweet from Sasha Coward the other day, who's doing Museum from Home. So whilst we're self-isolating, some of us museum weirdos have decided to make quick videos about our favourite museum artefacts. So if you can't go to a museum, let's bring the museum to you. I'll put a link to one that he did, and he did one about a ghost ship in under 60 seconds. Which was quite cute. You know Sasha, don't you?
We know each other through emails because we've been involved in projects together. But
yeah, so
I'm a bit of a museum buff myself. So queer museums we're interested in the same things.
Great. So maybe we'll try and get him on the show, and we're trying to get museum bums on as well. Yeah, so that would be good. Anyway, Queens of Agony, dear old queens. I want my first sex toy. What are some good household items that I can use as a makeshift dildo? I'm too anxious at the moment to get my own off the internet, nor do I have the money. But I want to feel something stimulating my prostrate. I'm not saying the word which he put here. As I jerk off. Any suggestions are welcomed. Oh, I mean, I don't see a problem with ordering stuff off the internet. Do you? I mean, you ordered a dildo, didn't you? How's that going?
I'm enjoying it, but it's not the same. I would say, yeah, I'm enjoying it, but it's not the same.
Yeah. So what kind of household items do you think they could use?
I'm sort of scouring my flat for inspiration now as we speak. My eyes settled on a pepper pot.
Again,
but you'd have to make sure that it was secure.
Yeah. Again, I'm not sure putting a pepper pot up your bottom. Maybe a carrot. I knew someone that used to like using carrots, and they used to warm them up to body temperature in the microwave before using them.
And if you wanted to make a carrot cake, after you could perhaps
reuse, recycle, anal carrot cake.
We're supposed to be washing all our food now anyway, so
well, yeah, precisely.
In the middle period.
Yeah. What other things you get? A courgette, a stick of cucumber, or just your finger.
You know, aubergine is a symbol of a penis.
Yeah.
An aubergine emoji is a symbol of a penis. But would you put an aubergine up there? Because I feel like it's too big.
Well, personally, for me, it's too big. But I'm sure there's other people out there that have worked their way up to bigger things going into their derriere.
Yeah, we're in here for the long journey, aren't we?
So maybe start small and work up to the aubergine.
I've got a butternut squash in my fridge, saying.
That's massively big, but I know someone who might like that. Anyway, let's move on to the next question. Dear old queens, I'm sure it may be me, but is it common to literally become what you're attracted to? For a while, I liked guys with moustaches, so I got a moustache. For a while, I've been loving guys with bald heads. Now I'm planning to shave my head. Is there like a psychological reason for this, or is it as simple as me liking a look, then getting it for myself? Probably the latter. What do you think?
Yeah, I've never really understood that, although I see it happening around me all the time. I usually go for people that look very different to me. The colour of their hair or skin, the size of them always feels like quite attractive to me, because maybe I feel curious about what it might feel like to be in that body.
Right.
So it doesn't resonate for me, although I know that I see it happening around me.
Isn't it like, as homosexuals, isn't our very nature to like the same thing? So perhaps you're liking people that look, I mean, it feels a little bit narcissistic, but liking people that look similar to you or wanting to emulate the people that you fancy is quite a normal thing.
I think it's very normal. Yeah, I don't experience it for myself. Have you experienced that?
Yeah, I mean, I think before I had a beard, I always fancied guys with beards, and then I decided to grow a beard. So, I mean, I couldn't have a beard for kind of career reasons, because I was acting and presenting, and having a beard wasn't like the thing. But because I do mainly voice work these days, it doesn't really matter. So what my facial hair is doing doesn't matter as much as it did before. But I've always fancied people who with a bit of facial furniture. I love a moustache.
Well, we heard it here first.
But I also like people that don't have facial furniture. So yeah, I think I think maybe it's part of your development as a sexual being, that you explore different things, and you just explore different looks, and you find what's comfortable for you, whether you fancy someone else who looks similar to you or not.
I can't really think of anyone that looks like me.
No, you're pretty unique, I have to say, Tommy, in a good way. Shall we move on? This is quite a long one. This is a long letter for you.
I like a long letter.
You do like a long letter. Okay. Dear old queens, I'm uncomfortable with my boyfriend holding me. I've been dating my boyfriend for nearly a year and I'm pretty happy with the relationship, except there's this one thing that kind of bugs me. When we're just lying in bed or relaxing on the couch or whatever, he often wants to hold me, like he'll wrap his arms around me, play with my hair, the works. He prefers being a big spoon and cuddling and to top when we have sex. And overall, more of a dominating presence altogether, but it makes me feel a bit like the girl in the relationship when he does this. I've expressed this to him, and he says he doesn't think of me as less of a man in the relationship, but if I don't want to cuddle, he'd respect that, though I can tell that he's sad about it. I admit it feels good when he holds me. He's taller and stronger than me, and having his arms tight around me is such a secure feeling, but I'm also embarrassed by it. What should I do?
I just nipped off to stew my hot pot in that long letter, but I got the gist.
I don't know. I think this is a little bit sad. I think we all need a cuddle right now, don't we? I think if you're with your partner,
I don't really like the tone of it. I think that he's sort of feeling like he's anxious about being feminized, and I don't think that's. I really think that he needs to drop that because it's just like it's boring and shit.
Yeah.
Like reading between the lines, I feel like he is happy in that relationship.
Yeah.
But he feels sort of. It seems like he feels disempowered in some way.
Yeah.
And I just feel like he needs to get over that. And if it's part of a wider problem, then okay, let's like talk about that. But if we're just focusing on this issue, I think that he should be with this person and enjoy the touching and the spooning as is requested and desired.
Yeah, I think those gender norms are kind of getting in the way of him enjoying that relationship. It doesn't mean that you're any less of a man if you're effeminate or you're a bottom or any of those things. And I think there's obviously some psychological aspect where he's not really accepting himself for what he is and what he likes to do.
I agree.
And I think he definitely needs to get over that. And I mean, it sounds like a cliche, but you need to start loving yourself for who you are and what you like, and what you like to do, and not worry about. I mean, who else is seeing this? If this is going on in the privacy of your own home, who's seeing this? Who are you worried about? Thinking that you're less of a man. I hate those kind of. I mean, it's a typical straight thing to say. Is like who's the girl in the relationship, or who's the masculine one, and it's just like none of that matters. That's not how we have gay relationships.
None of us care.
Exactly.
We don't. None of us care.
Yeah, I mean, unless he's like a frustrated dom top, in which if that's the case, then maybe he's with the wrong partner, or maybe he needs to be with a more.
He's not saying that. If he was saying, I really to be in this position, he's just saying that. Yeah. Well, we know what he's saying.
Yeah, I think he just needs to enjoy it for what it is, and if he does love his boyfriend cuddling him, then what's the issue? I
think it sounds nice. Tell him that his boyfriend could cuddle me if he wants.
His boyfriend can come and cuddle me if he wants. I think we all need a cuddle at this time, socially isolating. I'm hoping that we're giving you a big warm hug with that old queen every week. Do you want one more?
I did sort of feel, yeah. I was just going to say, I've got this body cream and some lavender oil, and I just gave myself a really nice little relaxing massage. And it just felt, because like nobody's touched me for a week or maybe longer, maybe 2 weeks now, it just felt different. It felt different, and it felt much appreciated. Like I could feel it in my body. Like I needed to be touched.
Yeah. I feel like the next time someone touched me, I might burst into tears because it's gonna, to have that kind of intimacy and closeness. Even a hug is what I'm craving right now.
Yeah.
Let me see what I've got for us for a final question. Dear old queens, I've found that I'm having more decent conversations with guys on Grindr and Scruff since self-isolation started. I know not everyone is following self-isolation, but recently it seems like people are much more in the mood to chat because most are actually staying at home. I've been having really good conversations with guys now. Have you also noticed this?
Well, I sort of I kind of debated for a while whether to take myself off Grindr during this period, because I thought that might be appropriate, really, because I felt like being on there, I was kind of encouraging people to like hook up for meets.
Yeah.
And then I thought, well, actually, it's just another way of like having people come in and communicate with your life. And it could be flirty. Like, I want it all. Like, I want like highbrow conversations. I want like sexy conversations. I want like practical conversations. I want everything to come in to my world.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to stop that, really, and I don't have to stop it. So I really agree with this. I was going to say caller. What are they? Writer-innerer. Because I just feel like, yeah, I've noticed that too. Like a lot of people on Grindr have got their thing of like stay at home, no meets at the moment, or like that sort of thing. And actually, I'm sort of curious to chat to people that I've never chatted before because they're there and they're like my neighbour. But I feel like that's quite interesting, really. It's like there are people that I've talked to really close by.
Yeah.
But I've not talked to before. Have you got this thing called House Party as well?
No.
Well, that's another thing that people can log into and chat.
Okay, is that another gay app?
No, it's not gay, but
it's just a normal kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I've always liked just chatting to people on gay apps. So it's not just. I don't think it's just for sex. And what I will say is that if you're still meeting up for sex, that's still very risky because it's not just about whether you. A lot of people with coronavirus don't have any symptoms, and that could be you if you don't have any symptoms. So you might be passing it on to someone who might have a severe reaction to it. So I would say don't do it. But having a chat and then prepping something for after this crisis is over, why not? I've always loved. So what I do on Scruff occasionally is have a little international woofing session where I woof at people who are cute, kind of thousands of miles away, and have a little conversation with them. And I really enjoy doing that. And there's more chances to have that happen during this period and connect with different people and maybe make some new friends. And that's what those apps are really good for right now, I think. And also, I think when people want a lot of casual sex, I think it's fulfilling something in their life which is empty. It's that need for connection. It's that need to talk to somebody else who perhaps shares a similar experience with you. So just having a conversation with them is also good and fulfilling a need, especially at this time. People like you or I who are living on our own, I really crave, just even a message, even if it's on Messenger or WhatsApp, and those video connections. We've had lots of video chats. I've had video chats with other friends, and I think there was an interview this week with a psychologist, and they were saying that having those face-to-face conversations are really important for your psychological well-being.
And that's why, like, I feel privileged that I have got all these people that I can connect with face-to-face, that know how to work the technology, that are like that know that they know exactly what they need, because I think there are people that are vulnerable that they can't even articulate what they need. And that's the really sad thing, really. I feel fortunate to have that ability and access, I guess.
I think I think we're all feeling isolated, and I think the more that we can do to connect with people is just going to help people out and help each other out.
With Grindr, they've opened it up also
Have they?
like quite often they say, "Oh, it's unlimited now," because I don't pay on Grindr. So sometimes you can go on and you can explore much further afield.
I think they did something last weekend, didn't they?
Yeah, and they seem to keep doing that every so often.
Yeah.
And Pornhub making it unlimited. Everyone's a VIP or something. I haven't explored that yet, but someone told me that.
Well, that's great for this period. But also, I think people like Grindr, and Grindr's quite expensive, I think, for what it is. Obviously, Grindr, if you'd like to sponsor this podcast, you're not that expensive, but
You're worth it.
Yeah, you're worth it. But I think it is a little bit expensive for what it is, and I think the time now is for those companies and organizations to start making this a little bit free so people can connect a little bit more, or certainly lower your prices, especially when half of us can't work. So and with that in mind, listeners, if you could like, share, subscribe, and if you do have enough money that you can do a little subscription to our Patreon account, please do, because it will just help us cover the cost of the podcast and keep us going through this crisis. Because Tommy and I...
Who would be your dream sponsor?
Oh, I don't know. Marks and Spencer's, probably. Or Scruff, or Grindr, or, anyone. Anyone can be a sponsor if they want to. But there's a little extra episode on our Patreon account at the moment that was a preamble to last week's episode, which our Patreons can access, which is quite fun. And if there's more and more Patreons subscribing, even if it's just £1 a month or 50p or whatever, then we're going to do some more extra content for that as well. Or also, you could buy a T-shirt from our merchandise store, which is also linked on our website.
Yes.
Which would also help. Yeah, T-shirts, sweatshirts, mugs, phone covers. We got the lot. It's all waiting there in a warehouse, waiting to be shipped.
I want to go out running for my daily exercise wearing a What That Old Queen sweatshirt.
Okay, I'll get it shipped to you.
Do you think I'll get the numbers up?
They'll definitely put the numbers up, yeah. Okay, we'll all get a What That Old Queen t-shirt or sweatshirt. With that, Tommy, I think we've come to the end of our show.
Well, I've enjoyed myself most thoroughly.
Me too. I loved our little chat about Danny LaRue, my favourite.
Yeah.
I can't wait to hear what you've got for us next week.
Yeah, I'll have a think. Yeah, I feel like I might go back deeper into history, but I wanted to make it a bit more.
Yeah, well, we've got a lot of scope for this, so there's lots of people we can tap into. But with that, we've come to the end of our show. So thank you all for listening and sticking with us. Hopefully you're still enjoying this, and we're staying with you weekly throughout this crisis. And we will say goodbye for now. Say goodbye, Tommy.
Goodbye, Tommy.
And we will see you, hear you, whatever you, next time on What That Old Queen.
You have been listening to What That Old Queen, presented by Tom Marshman and Bernie Hodges. The show was produced by Bernie Hodges in January 2020 for Hodge Podcasting. If you would like to discuss sponsoring this podcast, or you'd like to be a guest, or you just have a question for the Old Queens, please email hello@thatoldqueen.com or find us on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter.